Welcome to the Be Ruthless Show, where we have the conversations that other people don't, the conversations that other people won't. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and I'm ready to make a lot of noise and disrupt things, ruthlessly. Thanks for being here today. Now let's get to it. Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth. And if you are listening live, we are already at the end of January. I don't know how it happens. Time just speeds by and it kind of creeps up on me all the time. I just say it every month, every year. So I am kind of wondering what you're up to, what you did in January. If you're listening live, if you're listening to a replay, what what month is it? It is gorgeous here in Colorado. Thank goodness. We had a little tiny stretch of winter, and it was a lot for me. I am in a new area. I keep going further north, and it's my first time here. It was also the coldest it's been ever since I've lived here. And I'm happy to have our sunny skies and our 60 degrees back. In this January is the coldest month. I feel like I survived it. A lot of people are really, really struggling. I don't know, the astrology and the alignment of the stars and what all is going on in the universe, but I know that people are hurting and dealing with difficult things. And it doesn't matter how big or small, if you're having a hard time, your problems are real. And I always say, listen to your body. It doesn't matter if the rest of the world is going, or if the calendar says it's New Year's and we're supposed to have all these resolutions and start fresh and do all of these things. It still is winter, and you feel the way you feel, and you are allowed to go at your pace. We tend to compare and look around us, and we live in this land of social media, and you only see what people show you. And it's really, really important to do what's best for you. And for a lot of people, that's so, so difficult. And the earlier you can learn how to do that and pay attention to what feels right for you and listening to what's best for you, doing what lifts you up and what makes you feel good, and figuring out your own schedule and what works for you, the happier and the better life goes. A lot of times I do this with a point system with clients and trying to figure out how much energy we have and how many points we have to use, because we can just feel drained and then not enjoy things or miss out on things we really did want to do because we used up all of our energy in other places. So please pay attention to you. You matter. I'm talking about all of the awareness days all of the time. And I've had so many people posting awareness days, and I'm commenting and seeing them, and it makes me so excited. And they comment back that they saw me post it, but still for me, it's so exciting to see other people acknowledging days that matter in their world, whether it is a day about mental health or loss or self-care. It's a way to take time in a busy, fast-paced world to devote a little bit of extra attention to something that matters to you or someone in your world. And that can be 5 minutes. I was talking with a client about taking 3 minutes, 180 seconds, either in the morning or at night, to devote a little bit of time to herself for something that she hasn't been making time for. We do not have to wait. I also say this all of the time, until we have hours. We might not get there, right? If we wait and wait and wait until that Saturday with 4 extra hours comes, it might not. There are always things that end up happening, and somebody needs our attention, or something important comes up that we have to be there for, and we put ourselves on the back burners. So I just did want to start by noting that, and you can still get a Griefhab awareness calendar. It is, I keep forgetting to remind you that it's art drawn by kids impacted by loss. And the pictures alone are worth supporting and spending $20 to get the calendar. The awareness days alone are worth, but the combination of the two, I already have people drawing pictures and submitting artwork for next year's calendar. It's a beautiful, beautiful cause. Kids have a beautiful way of expressing things that capture it in a way to make us look at it differently, right? So on that note, kids, again, today's episode title is Invisible Enemies. Remember invisible friends? Being a kid and having those invisible friends that you talked to and played with and hung out with, sometimes with your other friends, sometimes when you were by yourself, and imaginary friends, we called them, not invisible, imaginary friends, to tell your secrets to maybe hang out with when you were lonely or bored. They were people who were anything that we wanted them to be, right? And they were acceptable. And sometimes your parents maybe even put a plate at the table for them to have cookies and milk when you had a snack, right? Imaginary friends they're just a part of childhood, right? And they're happy and they're talked about, right? What about the opposite? As we grow up, we live in this world where I have been this wide-eyed, naive. If you know me well, I look at this world in a very childlike way. Like, there are many, many times where I have really had my hopes crushed. Like, I find out Santa Claus isn't real type of childhood naive eyes. I believe in good things. I believe people are good. And I see the world in that way, right? And while that's a beautiful thing, as a psychologist, when I work with my clients, it's a dangerous thing, right? When we grow up in this world of technology, we have to pay attention now to danger. I hate these conversations, really, truly, but they're necessary. And especially for those of us who have the wide-eyed view of the world, right? Okay, like, I am an intelligent person. I went to the University of Michigan, but my brother would be the first person to tell you street smarts, zero. Like, that type of wide-eyed, naive people, right? Like, that view of the world, we can get taken advantage of easily. I have been, and I am more likely to be than others. Now, I am the first to be able to speak up for myself and tell someone how it is, way more so than some other people, right? But when it comes to this, I am naive and I am more likely, to believe in Santa Claus. Okay. So it's dangerous. There are scams. There are people out there sending emails with click this link. And if you do, they have access to any and everything. It's 2024. This is the world we live in. So that's dangerous, period, for any and everyone. But then add certain factors, add certain demographics. If you are a woman, right? I say, I will not buy a car without having my brother, dad, Jim, a guy, someone else there with me, more likely to get taken advantage of. Fact. If you are a widow, we have targets. Obituaries go out. People get lists with your names and the scams that come out. Pay this bill or else. In the state of grief, in the panic, I myself, I can't tell you how many of my clients paid a bill that probably did not need to be paid. Absolutely did not need to be paid. So there are these we have imaginary friends as children, but there are invisible enemies as adults. So there are those scams and things happening in the world. The new ones that I hear all the time are this package. We need to deliver this package. And then people have your address, right? Then there's the haters, right? There's just the haters out there. Let's just talk about sports, right? The people who just Michigan fans, Ohio State fans, enemies, right? We just don't like each other because of the colors and the schools we went to. We're absolutely nothing else, right? Democrats and Republicans, just polar opposites. We could be the best people in the world, and because of what we believe in or the school we went to, haters, right? There's people out there who just do not believe what we believe in because of that, right? So then there's that. There are people out there, if I post something about Michigan, something about the Lions, who I'm just not even going there today if you're listening live, something about that, you automatically attract the possibility of people saying, I don't like you because you like this, right? Negative comments. We live in that world. What about people who are in our circles? What about invisible enemies that look like friends? What about invisible enemies pretending to be our friends? What about someone who actually pretends to be a friend in order to do something negative? We need to be aware in this world we live in. We all need to be aware, again, any and everyone. People with street smarts have their antennas up more so than people who see the good and want to see the good. So what do? I don't want to walk around looking for bad. I don't want to live in that world. How do we protect ourselves if we're a woman, we're a widow, we're any population, any demographic, we're a man, we're a child, we are a teacher, any person, whatever demographic you are, there's going to be a situation that you're in. So what do? You always can, and I say need an advocate when it comes to important decisions, important if it comes to things that involve, like I said, with widows, paying bills. If you are in a vulnerable state, if you are not at your best, then running it by someone, you're just vulnerable. You're not thinking at your best. Then it's always wise to run something by another person. It doesn't mean, and it doesn't have to be a major decision. If I am not at my best, if there's something that I have, that I'm anything that I am just not sure about, I will run it by someone I absolutely trust, my very inner circle, my therapist, usually my family. Depends what it's about, because there's times my family, even though they want what's best for me, they can be overprotective, and they might just have on their treat me, fragile gloves, right? So there's certain things I just might not turn to them first or at all about. But when I'm not at my best, I need input. I need someone else's second opinion. Mine isn't necessarily okay at that moment. It is not only okay, it's necessary. There are invisible enemies. So if it is anything that comes that I'm unsure of, if it's a document, if it's read this, sign this, always going to run it by. Always, right? Financial team, business team, therapy team. It gets tricky. We have people at work or who we work with that we share things with. We have friends. And I had a situation with the client where she did not see that she was sharing information that could have been used against her and would have been used against her, right? So running things by me is in her best interest. We only see things one way from our point of view. And we have blind spots, just like when we're driving. And like I said, I hate this conversation. But this can happen in relationships. This can happen in friendships. If you feel something right now as I'm talking about this, if something is coming up for you with a certain friend or colleague, if this is making you think about someone or a certain situation, then maybe that's a situation you need to run by someone. Trust yourself and your instincts. I was looking at a situation in my own life as I was not looking at a situation in my own life as a widow, because it involved people I love dearly. And when I stepped back and was able to say, remove the people and the names. Let's just call people A, B, C, D, and E. And how would I handle this if this was not my situation? Or how would I handle this if A, B, C, D, and E were different people? I was able to look at it completely differently. We need to be able to remove our emotions. And sometimes we get caught up in a situation because of who's involved, right? If you are having a conflict with your spouse, you react differently than if it's happening with your colleague at work. It's more intense, right? It means more at home with your spouse, right? So once I was able to see, whoa, I am not treating this the way I would as a widow, the way I would if this were someone else involved, if this was not someone I cared about, then I was able to step back and say, I need someone else to look at this. And how else could this be handled? And other people were able to say, Sam, this isn't correct. You're not being treated fairly. This is not acceptable, right? There are invisible enemies. We can not see things, and we can overlook things, and we can tolerate things, right? Because we care about people. We can tolerate something from a family member or a friend that we wouldn't tolerate somewhere else. So we need to be able to recognize when to get second opinions and when to lean on an expert, someone else for input so that we don't get taken advantage of. There unfortunately are people out there for dollars. There are people out there for, to take down your name. There are people out there to hurt. I can't even think of the things. My brain doesn't work that way. There are people out there with negative intent. I can't give the examples because my brain doesn't work that way, but it's true. There are people out there treating you in ways that you're not seeing, and that you might be handling differently than you are looking at. So when do you need to look for input? When do you bring in an advocate, another opinion, and who? We don't just run out and ask the world. And there are also too many opinions, right? I do not want 10 opinions. That is 10 too many, or 8 too many. We go to people we trust implicitly. So imaginary friends are such an important part of life. Are you aware? I am so computer illiterate that I will send someone something before I open it. I know that much. I know there are so many computer viruses and risks that before I open something or click a link, I will take a picture, run it by someone else, and assume that it is a risk. And I am more unaware than aware in this day and age. And there are new things happening every single day, and people can send fake voices and pictures with AI. So protect yourself. Who are your people, right? I'm so grateful that I know who to turn to and who I can say, is this real? And can I run something by you? So thank you so much for being a part of this community and being a part of my world. There is so much going on in this world as we go into February. If you're struggling, healing together through the holidays seems like it was so long ago. So much has happened, but the library is still open. You can access all of the talks, but I am going to have a Broken Hearts Club get together on Valentine's Day, because I know Jim and I did not celebrate. It was just a silly little Hallmark holiday, but now I see everyone else celebrating and I miss him. Right now it matters. then it didn't. So if you don't want to be alone on Valentine's Day, join us with Team Ruthless and the Broken Hearts Club. Look for the link in the show notes. And on February 1st, this Thursday, Shalini Breault is doing our second month of the angel healing energy. She's doing 12 months this year, once a month, all year long. You can join us. That's a bonus month, a bonus meeting for Team Ruthless. So that's 2 extra things going on with Team Ruthless this month. Ruthless in the Rockies is in May. So many things. Just check out anywhere on social media and you will see everything going on. Until next time, always be ruthless. Thanks so much for listening today. Your support means everything to me, truly. If this podcast resonates with you, please do me a favor and join in the Ruthless movement by making some noise and doing one of these 4 things. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Tell a friend so we can break stigmas even faster. Leave a review so people can see what you think of the show. And last, if you want to learn more about me and be a part of the Griefhab community, please head on over to the Facebook group. We'd love to have you. Thanks again for spending your time with us, and see you next week.